Welcome. This session will focus on aligning technology use to developmentally appropriate practices in early childhood settings. Our objectives for this session are to review developmentally appropriate practices and strategies in the context of using digital media in early childhood classrooms. We will discuss the current state of technology in early childhood settings and application of best practices as aligned to the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines and the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. We will also explore support and resource opportunities for early childhood educators to implement technology best practices, including professional development and coaching. First, we will review developmentally appropriate practices as aligned to the pre-kindergarten guidelines and the best practices in early childhood education best practice guides. What are developmentally appropriate practices and strategies, and what does it look like in action? Strengths-based learning includes allowing the child to initiate and participate in the learning experience given their strengths, interests, and level of engagement. This is supported through child-led learning where the teacher acts as the guide or co-facilitator in the learning process. As educators, we have to remain cognizant of where children are in their learning process, which we consider through the lens of differentiated instruction and the concept of the zone of proximal development. Teachers initially guide most of the problem-solving process and eventually transfer this responsibility to the child for maximum independent development through learning, otherwise known as a gradual release of responsibility. We explore more of this concept in our Best Practices in Early Childhood Education Guide web pages. Play-based learning includes concrete practical experiences. Research has shown that children learn best through play. Additionally, we know that young children also need developmentally appropriate experiences that are applicable, functional, and purposeful. This is why we have learning centers in early childhood classrooms that allow experiences such as dramatic play centers, access to free writing materials, natural elements and science centers, and books in all areas of the classroom pertaining to the outcome of the week. Choice-driven strategies ensure that children engage in the learning environment based on interests and strengths that help build knowledge off of purposeful play experiences. Allowing student choice within the parameters of teacher-guided experiences gives the children autonomy over their learning and builds independence as they learn at their own pace. A good example of this is allowing children to choose where they want to go during learning center time and providing them with uninterrupted play. Language-rich environments support social interaction, literacy skills through auditory awareness, and overall language development. Adding on the concept of print-rich environments helps engage the whole child through building early literacy experiences, opportunities for dialogue, and building background knowledge of content and skills. Lastly, we look at developmentally appropriate practices and strategies as engaging the child using all the senses. This builds learning through hands-on concrete experiences and meets the child right where they are based on their strengths and interests. An important aspect to focus on in the early childhood classroom is utilizing developmentally appropriate practices and strategies through play-based experiences. We know that play is enjoyable, play is intrinsically motivated, play is process-oriented, play is freely chosen, and play includes active engagement. Ensuring optimal development through strengths-based, play-based experiences requires that the early childhood Texas educator reference the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guideline outcomes and Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills student expectations to drive instructional practices while implementing high-quality adopted instructional material with fidelity. It is also important to align play-based opportunities with the use of high-quality adopted instructional materials that use play-based opportunities to elicit interactions and increase student engagement. Our Early Childhood Best Practices web pages includes information on developmentally appropriate practices and strategies that are aligned to the early childhood classroom. This concept promotes building high-quality programs through recognizing the strengths of young children by providing culturally, linguistically, and ability-based experiences for every child in the classroom. We have also outlined connections to the pre-kindergarten guidelines and connections to the TEKS, as well as many other topics, including best practices for technology use in early childhood classrooms. Now that we've established the framework of developmentally appropriate practices, let's look at the current state of digital media use in early childhood education settings. The current state of technology use in early childhood education settings supports multiple areas of development. Some examples include cognitive skills, where we can utilize problem-solving strategies through various applications, and develop concepts and skills depending on the content the student is learning about, such as matching letters, identifying numerals, or identifying shapes. Social-emotional skills can be developed with technology by engaging in turn-taking activities with digital media, such as utilizing an interactive whiteboard or collaboration in creating class-made products using digital media. Motor skills are developed with the use of technology by using eye-hand coordination with the mouse or stylus, finger isolation while using a touchscreen, and engaging in music and movement activities with digital media, which supports gross motor skills. All of this specifically supports speech, language, and communication when used in an interactive reciprocal manner. How can we utilize technology in a developmentally appropriate way in our classrooms? Lesson objectives can include the use of digital media to teach specific skills, as we see a child use an interactive touchscreen to identify or match shapes. Technology can be used to supplement or extend lesson objectives, such as allowing children to independently identify a skill through digital media used on an interactive whiteboard, turn-taking with an educational app on a tablet, or creating an interactive digital classroom for families to access content in their homes. Digital tools can also be used as a form of assisted or augmentative technology for those who benefit from it or have been evaluated by a professional to use in a classroom. This may look like a communication board or apps, a stylus, or an adaptive mouse. All of these examples of technology use have many benefits in the classroom as long as they are being utilized appropriately, interactively, and with purpose. Let's take a deeper look at technology best practices in early childhood education settings and how it aligns to best practices in early childhood outcomes. The purpose of using technology in the early childhood classroom is to support and provide alternative learning opportunities, a way to strengthen relationships, and ultimately prepare children for college and career readiness in the 21st century. What we have shared on our Technology Best Practices webpage includes the following: explicitly teaching digital citizenship and practical technology applications as set forth by the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines and Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills. This includes setting parameters for screen time based on leading research. This includes screen time limits, such as TV, videos, digital media, etc., that should be used less than 30 minutes for half-day programs and less than 1 hour for full-day programs. Children older than 2 years old should use technology for no more than 1 hour per day, which includes high-quality programming. Using technology for active joint engagement and interactions, such as co-viewing of media, and asking children questions about what they are viewing or playing or making connections to what they have learned. Technology use in early childhood classrooms should not be used in passive nature. In other words, educators should not press play and walk away, but rather use technology as a means to engage in reciprocal conversations, dialogue, and as a means for progress monitoring. Let's consider the suggestions for screen time based on leading research. Although the use of technology has many benefits within academic settings, it is important to note the screen time limits for technology use, specifically in early childhood settings. With the common availability of digital media in classrooms, it is important to keep in mind that any and all technology use counts as screen time. This does not include low-tech items such as a computer mouse, a stylus, a communication board, or audio-only activities. Here are some practical examples of technology use in the early childhood classroom. It is recommended that early childhood programs limit the use of teacher-led digital media activities during whole group time, such as playing a music video or primary passive use of a lesson-driven slide deck. It is instead recommended that teachers use manipulatives, interactive wall decor, or modeled music and movement, which includes audio-only or instruments, in order to engage a child's 5 senses during whole group time. A decrease in the use of one-way models of teaching, such as children viewing a screen, increases two-way reciprocal social and language interactions and promotes the use of language and communication when used appropriately. It is recommended that classrooms have set parameters and limit time for student use of computers and tablets, specifically in learning centers. This can be implemented through the structured use of timers, sign-in sheets, or limiting a technology center for use only during specific days or times of the week. It is highly recommended that all literacy activities and books be directly read by adults and children, including a picture walk, and not through primary means of technology. Classroom staff should model the developmentally appropriate use of book handling procedures and print directionality, as well as skills that build the comprehension of text by asking questions and allowing inquiry through exploration of the text. What does technology use look like when aligned to the Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guidelines? The outcome 10A1, child opens and navigates through digital learning applications and programs when appropriate, may look like exploration of interactive media, including interactive media boards or digital storybooks. 10A2, the child uses and names a variety of digital tools that support and enhance learning, may look like exploring and operating a mouse, keyboard, or touchscreen, or using terminology in the classroom such as click, swipe, tap, etc. 10A3, child uses digital learning applications to contribute to class-made digital products that express own ideas as appropriate, may look like using a form of drawing, writing, recording, or capturing photos with digital media, or co-creating products during various times of the day. 10A4, child uses technology to access appropriate information with adult assistance, may look like learning or interacting with new information, such as using digital storybooks, virtual field trips, and interactive apps. 10A5, child practices safe behavior while using digital tools and resources, can look like tactile safety, which is handling digital media with care, or using digital citizenship safety, such as closing apps and using school apps only. What does technology use look like in action as we reference the kindergarten through second grade TEKS? There are categories in which the knowledge and skills fall under technology applications, including using digital media for the purpose of creativity and innovation, communication and collaboration, research and information fluency, critical thinking, problem solving and decision making, digital citizenship, and technology operations and concepts. You can also reference our vertical alignment documents that demonstrate the progression of skills specific to technology use from pre-K through second grade. We also have a webpage specifically highlighting the content you have seen and heard here today under our Technology Best Practice webpage. We will now review our current supports for technology use for early childhood educators. So we would like to share the newly published T-Test ECE document available on the Teach for Texas webpage. Although we know this tool is used in a more holistic sense by administrators, you can utilize this tool when determining technology best practices as an early childhood educator. How could instructional coaches or mentors support early childhood educators when implementing technology best practices? As we think in terms of a common coaching cycle, educators and their coaches can plan by setting goals aligned to technology pre-K guidelines and TEKS. Coaches can observe implementation of technology in action, questioning whether educator practices are developmentally appropriate and used as a form of active engagement. And finally, the last stage could include reflection on lesson planning and implementation of intentional activities that utilize technology in developmentally appropriate ways. As a plan of action, think about your use of technology best practices. As an educator, are you mindful of the use of developmentally appropriate practices in your classrooms in relation to technology? Are you mindful of the amount of screen time being used in your classrooms? Are you planning technology activities with intentional, purposeful design that includes reciprocal interactions and opportunities for active engagement? And are you supported with understanding developmentally appropriate practices and the use of technology? What will you do to ensure these practices are reflected in your classroom and programs? Lastly, we will review current resources and references. Some professional development resources worth exploring for technology include the CLI Engage platform that includes Texas Pre-Kindergarten Guideline training for all domains, including technology, the Technology and Digital Media website from Erickson Institute, the Fred Rogers Institute, which has resources tab search topics under media and technology, and professional development resources from TEA that includes educator resources, webpage information, and webinar recordings. Here are current references that are available on our Technology Best Practice webpage. Here are further resources to support implementation of best practices in your classrooms and programs. For further questions or support, please use our ECU support portal using the QR code or link on the slide. Thank you for reviewing our technology best practices and supporting our children in Texas.